Hello there, Latin 3. It's time for Chapter 58, Political Murder, Asconius' account. So what you have here is an historian who then lifts from Cicero very heavily. So a lot of what you're going to start to see, especially in Chapter 59, will be very Ciceronian. So you'll be in on all the Cicero jokes. Some things to keep in mind: you should have done the lessons on gerunds and gerundives first, and then come back to Chapter 58 and start doing the translations. So here we are with Chapter 58, Big A, okay? Yeah, here we go. On January 18, Milo set out for Lanuvium, from which town he was, okay, so a town that he was from, and where he was the chief magistrate at the time, in order to appoint a priest on the following day. So that's the purpose that he'd set out. At about the 9th hour, which if we're in January, which is technically actually, it's wintertime, so the sun comes up later, but about the 9th hour, that gives us pretty close to dusk, okay? At about the 9th hour, while returning from Aricia, Clodius met him, Milo, a little beyond Bowilae. And by the way, the map that they give you on page 42 will help kind of give you the idea of what is where and what have you. Indeed, he had addressed the town council in Aricia, or of Aricia. Clodius was riding on a horseback. Nearly 30 lightly armed slaves were following along, equipped with swords, as was the custom to the time for those making a journey. Which, you've got 30 lightly armed slaves traveling with you, and that's the custom. Kind of lets you know how bad it's getting. And at this time, there's political gang warfare in the streets fairly regularly. It's not a good time to be alive. There were, with Clodius, moreover, 3 of his comrades, his allies, of whom one was a Roman equus, or eques, so upper class, not quite noble, and 2 well-known men who were plebeians. Okay, so 2 well-known, probably famous, or probably rich people from the lower caste. Milo was riding in a carriage with his wife Fausta, who was the daughter of Lucius Cornelius Sulla, Sulla the dictator, and his close friend, his being Milo's close friend, Marcus Fufius, which is the only time I think he ever appears. A long column of slaves followed them, among whom there were the 2 gladiators as well, or among whom there were also gladiators, 2 of whom, Eudamus and Beria, were well known. So he's traveling with very well-known gladiators. Okay, so not just lightly armed slaves, but gladiators. These guys, specifically Eudamus and Beria, walking slowly, rather slowly, at the end of the line, began a tussle, a rowdy-do, with Publius Clodius' slaves. Okay, so that's the beginning of it. All right, so they're passing by, and probably side-eyeing each other, and then at the very end, those guys start to fight, and then you know what's about to start happening. So this is Asconius' account of what happened. All right, I'm gonna hit the button.